I still sleep with my phone on the pillow next to me. Not because I'm waiting for a call. Not anymore. I sleep with it there because at 11:47 every night I press play. And for 43 seconds he is still alive. His voice fills the dark room. It is low and a little rough, the way it always was in the evening. He says my name, Ria, and something inside my chest cracks open just slightly, just enough to breathe. 43 seconds, I have counted, and then it ends, and the room is quiet again, and I lie there with my eyes open, staring at the ceiling, and I think, this is how I survive another night. Do you know this feeling? Have you ever held onto a sound the way you hold onto a railing in the dark? I hope you haven't. But if you have, then you already know where this story ends. You already know the kind of love I am going to tell you about. The kind that does not leave when the person does. The kind that stays, and stays, and stays, pressed into your ribs like a dried flower between pages. Let me go back to the beginning. Let me tell you about Arjun. I met him on a Tuesday in October. I remember the light. It was that particular October light, gold and thin, the kind that makes everything look like an old photograph. I was sitting in the small cafe near the railway station, the one with the green walls and the wooden tables that wobbled if you leaned on them wrong. I had a notebook open in front of me. I was trying to write something. I don't remember what. The coffee beside me had gone cold. He sat down at the table next to mine, not across from me. Next to me, there were 6 empty tables in that cafe. He chose the one beside me. I looked up. He had kind eyes. That is the first thing I noticed. Not handsome, not tall, though he was both, but kind. The kind of eyes that have seen something hard and came out softer, not harder. Brown and steady and slightly tired. He smiled at me, a small smile, embarrassed almost. "Your table wobbles less," he said. I looked at his table. It was rocking gently because he had set his book down on the edge. "All the tables wobble," I told him. He laughed, just once, short and surprised, like he hadn't expected me to say something true. That laugh, I think I fell a little in love with it before I even knew his name. We talked for 3 hours that day, about small things first, the cafe, the railway station, the city, then bigger things, families, fears, what we wanted from our lives. He told me he was an engineer who secretly wanted to be a musician. I told him I was a writer who secretly wanted to stop writing. He found that funny. I found that funny too. When I finally looked at my phone, it was past 7. The cafe was almost empty. The light outside had gone from gold to the deep blue of early evening. "I should go," I said. "You should," he agreed, but he did not move, and neither did I. Not for another 20 minutes. That was Arjun, always honest about wanting to stay. We were together for 3 years after that. 3 years of shared meals and cold winter mornings and arguments about small things and forgiveness that came easy because the love underneath was strong. 3 years of learning someone, really learning them. The way he held his teacup with both hands. The way he hummed while he was reading, without knowing he was doing it. The way he always said goodnight twice. Once at the door, once from the bed, like he wanted to be sure. We lived in a small flat with a blue door. I loved that door. It was the blue of summer sky, bright and confident, in a lane full of gray and beige. Arjun had painted it himself, the second week we moved in. He stood on a chair to reach the top, and he got paint on his forearm, and he did not notice for 2 days. I noticed. I always noticed everything about him. Have you ever loved someone that much? Where your eyes just find them in a room before your brain even tries? Where you know the sound of their footsteps on the stairs? That was how I loved Arjun. And I want you to know, I want you to really know, that it was joyful. People talk about great loves like they are always tragic, always aching, but ours was also just good. We were happy. Small, ordinary, Tuesday afternoon happy. That is the most real kind. I remember one evening in particular, a Sunday in February, cold but dry. We had nowhere to be, no plans, no obligations. He had made chai and we sat on the floor of the living room, not on the sofa, on the actual floor, with a blanket over our legs and old songs playing quietly from the speaker on the shelf. We didn't talk much. He was reading. I was almost reading, mostly just watching him. The lamplight on the side of his face, the way his finger turned a page, the small sound he made when something pleased him. The chai grew cold between my hands. I thought, I want this, exactly this, for as long as I can have it. I did not know then how short the rest of it would be. He got sick in April, not suddenly, slowly, the way something serious always arrives, quietly, disguised as tiredness, disguised as a cold that won't quite go. He lost weight, he coughed at night. He said it was nothing, and I believed him for 3 weeks because I wanted to believe him, because the alternative was something I could not hold in my mind without flinching. When the diagnosis came, we sat together in a white room that smelled of antiseptic and something sweet and chemical underneath. The doctor was kind. She used gentle words, but the words were still what they were. I held his hand. His hand was warm. It has always been warm. That is something I have noticed since the very beginning. Arjun's hands were always warm, even in January, even when the flat was cold and our breath made small clouds in the kitchen. He looked at me when the doctor stopped talking. He did not look afraid. He looked sorry. "Ria," he said, "just my name, nothing else." I nodded. I did not trust my voice. There is a secret I have never told anyone, not his family, not my mother, not a single friend. When we walked out of that hospital, I was the one who had already started letting go. Not of him, never of him, but of the version of the future I had been quietly building in my head. The blue door growing old, the children we had talked about, the gray in his hair that I had already decided I would love. I let all of that go in the hospital car park in the sharp April wind while he stood beside me and talked about getting a second opinion. And I thought, I cannot let him see me grieve him while he is still here. That became my secret, my private sacrifice. I decided, standing there in the wind, that I would not cry in front of him, not once. I would save every tear for when he could not see me. I would give him only warmth, only steadiness, only the feeling that we were going to be okay, even when I knew with a terrible certainty that we were not. Was that the right choice? I still don't know. Sometimes I think it was the most loving thing I have ever done, and sometimes, alone at night, I wonder if I should have cried with him, if I robbed us both of something true by being so carefully, deliberately brave. The months that followed are both very sharp and very blurred in my memory. Sharp, the smell of the hospital, antiseptic and too warm air, the particular sound of a machine beeping slowly in a quiet room, the texture of the blanket I brought from home, soft, green, the one from the end of our bed, tucking it around him. Blurred, time, the passage of days, whether it was June or July, whether I had eaten, but some moments are crystal clear, small ones, the ones that didn't seem important until they became everything. He asked me once, near the end, to open the window. It was a morning in September, still warm. I opened it, and a smell came in, petritra, that sweet smell of rain on dry earth because there had been a small shower overnight. He closed his eyes and breathed it in. He smiled. "I love that smell," he said. "I know," I said, and I sat on the edge of his bed, and we just breathed together for a few minutes, in and out. The rain smell filling the room, his hand in mine. That is the quiet scene I will carry forever. No drama, no words about love or loss or all the things we hadn't said, just two people breathing the same air on a September morning with the window open. He died on a Wednesday, early before the sun was fully up. The room was gray-blue with dawn light. He was not in pain. I was holding his hand when he went. His hand was still warm. For a long time after, I held it, and it was still warm. And I sat there in the gray-blue light, and I kept waiting for him to make that small sound, the one he made when something pleased him while he was reading. He didn't. I didn't cry in that room. I had promised myself, and I kept the promise even then, even at the very end, even though there was no one there to see me break it. I walked out of the hospital into the early morning. The sky was pale pink and orange at the edge. Cars were beginning to appear on the road. The world was waking up, ordinary and indifferent, and I stood on the pavement in the cool morning air, and I finally broke open. I cried the way you cry when you have been holding it for months. Without sound, almost. Just tears, fast and endless, and my hands over my mouth. I didn't stop for a long time. The voicemail. He had left it the week before he died. I don't think he knew how close the end was. Or maybe he did, and he just didn't tell me. That would have been like him. I was in the corridor when he called, getting tea from the machine. When I came back, he was asleep. Missed call. Arjun. Voicemail. I listened to it right there in the corridor, under the fluorescent light, holding a cardboard cup of terrible tea. His voice was tired, but warm. But his. Ria, it's me. I just wanted to hear your voice, but you weren't there. That's okay. I wanted to say, you have been so steady this whole time. I don't know how you do it. I don't know where you find it, but it helped. It helped more than I can say. I love you. That's all. I love you. Come back soon. I saved you a biscuit from the tray. Then a short laugh. Then the line went quiet. 43 seconds. I stood in the corridor and I could not move. Somewhere behind me, a nurse was walking quickly. A trolley wheeled past. The fluorescent light buzzed faintly above me. He had seen it. He had seen the steadiness, and he had named it, and he had loved me for it. He didn't know the cost. He didn't know what it had taken, but he saw it. He saw me. I put the phone in my pocket. I picked up the tea. I walked back into the room and sat down next to him while he slept. I did not cry. Not then. But I have never deleted that voicemail. Not once. Not even when my phone warned me that storage was full. I deleted photographs, old messages, apps I never used. I kept his voice. After the funeral, after all the people had finally gone home, I sat at the blue door. The flat was mine now. The quietness of it was enormous. I sat at the kitchen table, the small wooden one we had bought secondhand from a market, the one with the circular stain on the corner from a plant pot, and I took out a piece of paper. I wrote him a letter. I took my time. I lit a candle on the table. Outside, the evening was dark and the lane was quiet. Somewhere a dog was barking, distant and then gone. I could smell the candle, something warm like sandalwood, and the old wood of the table, and faintly, very faintly, the smell of him still in the flat, in the curtains, in the blanket folded on the sofa. I wrote everything I had not said. I told him that I had cried in the car park on the day of the diagnosis. I told him that every single day I had wanted to break, that there had been moments, small, terrible moments, when the face I kept carefully steady on the outside was nothing like the face I wore inside. I told him that I loved him from the first Tuesday in October, that his laugh in the cafe had undone me completely and I had never recovered, and I did not want to. I told him about the Sunday in February on the floor with the old songs and the cold chai. I told him it was the happiest I had ever been. I told him about the September morning and the smell of rain. I told him I open my window every time it rains now. Then I wrote the last part slowly. You said I was steady. I need you to know I was only steady because of you. You were the reason it was worth holding together. I held together for you because you deserved someone whole standing beside you. That was the last gift I could think of. I hope it was enough. I folded the letter and put it inside the cover of his favorite book, a warm paperback that lived on the shelf beside the speaker. I pressed it in carefully, gently. Then I sat for a while in the quiet with the candle burning. The flame did not flicker. The room was perfectly still. That was 2 years ago. I still live here. I still have the blue door. Last spring, I planted a small rose at the base of the fence outside, yellow, because he once said yellow things are always optimistic, and I believed him. It bloomed for the first time in June. One flower, bright and stubborn, in the middle of all the gray. I stood at the gate and looked at it for a long time. I still play the voicemail at 11:47. I don't know if I will always, but I do for now. Some nights it makes me smile. Some nights it costs me. Most nights it is just his voice. 43 seconds, my name in his mouth. That is enough. That has to be enough. Here's what I want to tell you. If you are carrying something heavy right now, the love you give, even the secret kind, the silent kind, the kind that no one ever names, it lands. It reaches people. It holds them up in ways you may never fully know. You do not have to be seen to matter. You do not have to be loud to be felt. Be steady for the people you love. Be steady even when it costs you. And then, when they are safe, fall apart quietly. That is not weakness. That is the full shape of devotion. Tonight I will press play again. His voice will fill the dark room, and for 43 seconds the door will be blue, and the chai will be warm, and somewhere outside it will be raining.